Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live on a Saturday. Hopefully, you're having some fun, watching some college football, drinking some coffee, whatever the case may be on this crisp fall Saturday morning, first day of October. It's been a good week, man. So here to obviously talk about our final preview wrap up for the Chargers and Texans game. We are also going to do our usual Q&A with all of the proceeds that we raised from today's show, dedicated to Trace Whitaker, obviously Zach Whitaker's newborn baby, going through a tough time right now with a bit of a medical issue. So obviously sending the well wishes, thoughts and prayers to Zach and his family and baby Trace, and hopefully we raise some good money today. So if you do so, feel inclined, the link is right here in the chat. You can go and donate right there directly, or you can use the super chat feature to ask a specific question ahead of the Chargers and Texans game, and we'll be sure to link that over to Zach and his family in this hard time. So joining me to do all of that today are my guys Tyler and Alex. Tyler, we'll start with you, man. How are you doing today?
Doing very well and happy to help. We have been doing this as much as we sort of can on some Saturdays since we really started, as much as we really could, and I'm happy to do it because Zach's a great guy, great Chargers fan, of course, and I can't imagine being in this situation and watching my newborn be helicoptered elsewhere to get treatment. Nightmare scenarios. If anybody can help, super chats are great, obviously, and we'll send any of those that we get to the GoFundMe, but YouTube does take a certain amount. So if you'd rather just go donate to the GoFundMe directly, that would actually be better, but either way, the money will get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zach's here in the chat. Appreciate you and your support. Zach's been one of the biggest supporters of the show since day one. I think he was like the 6th or 7th person to sign up on our Patreon page. So, this is obviously something that, like Tyler said, we are happy to do for somebody like Zach, who is well-deserving. And obviously none of us have kids at this point. But like Tyler said, man, I just could not fathom sitting there having like this joyous moment and then have this baby just kind of taken away from me and taken to another hospital. So all the best wishes to Trace and Zach and his family. Alex, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Yeah, Zach's been a loyal guy since day one, and just happy to help him out here as best as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get to the questions, we do have some as always, some injury updates, although a little bit more positive on this week outside of potentially Keenan Allen. So Justin Herbert, first and foremost, man, no designation on the injury report, which is obviously fantastic. He's had 2 full days of practice in a row. He's been able to throw 2 days in a row. And I think that's obviously great news for Herbert. Joe Lombardi said on Thursday that he feels like there's going to be a lot more confidence heading into this week because of Justin and the way that he has progressed. Obviously, he hasn't healed. He's not going to heal for quite a while. But it sounds like Justin's feeling great, and that's obviously fantastic news for the Chargers, obviously, and the way that they'll be able to kind of call this game plan and have confidence in the way that Justin is going to be able to throw right away. So that to me was obviously like the biggest positive takeaway. Was that Justin did not have an injury designation, full participant in practice 2 days in a row.
Yeah, I know people are sick of hearing the Joe Lombardi, weekly, oh, I was a bit conservative here. But Staley said, like, the quarterback's protection and Herbert being protected is our number one priority with this offense. And then everything kind of, goes from there. You have to protect Justin Herbert. And Lombardi said, yeah, we didn't know how he'd respond. So we kept it kind of conservative and just kind of to see what happens. Now that he's not fully healthy, like he really isn't, but to see him be a full participant and them kind of knowing whether he's at. Okay, I'm gonna just cough the rest of the time. Alex, go for it.
Yeah,
Alex, I think you're muted. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. While Tyler dies, I think that Joe Lombardi. Okay, I can't watch this. No, I think that this is obviously good news for the Chargers, and Joe Lombardi sort of talked about kind of being a little bit more conservative last week because of the Herbert thing. So this is what kind of allows him to open up the playbook more. Then obviously would love to see that. Curious to see how the playbook will be on a week where Keenan Allen, as Steven said, kind of isn't playing, and Jamari Salyer is the starting tackle now, as opposed to Rashawn Slater and Trey Pipkins. Now it's Trey Pipkins and Jamari. I'm curious how he'll hold up. Obviously, Corey Linsley is back, so I'm just curious to see how all of these factors in the injury report contribute to Joe Lombardi's play calling. Obviously, Herbert is the first big positive, but obviously still a lot of things to kind of take care of in terms of how Lombardi will call the game with this personnel.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there were, Lombardi caught a lot of flack for his quote about this. And I understand, like, given who it's coming from, but also it's understandable, right? Like your star quarterback is dealing with a rib injury. You 5 minutes before game time that he's going to be able to play. And so I think it's just kind of natural for him to kind of feel that process out. I didn't necessarily feel like they were too conservative. I felt like they were passing the ball a lot. To me, if anything, they should have entered that game with a more conservative approach, running the ball more often and then kind of seeing how Justin went along. So for that specific game, I don't necessarily blame Joe Lombardi for being too conservative or not having like a firm grasp on how Justin was feeling before kickoff.
All right, we'll see how this goes. But no, like Alex said, Herbert's supposedly back more, and maybe Joe Lombardi will be quote unquote less conservative. But then you have the other injuries. Like, are we expecting them to run heavy play action deep shots with Jamari Salyer at left tackle in his first game? Probably not. Are we expecting much with Keenan Allen out? No. Donald Parham's going to sit another week. So I don't really know what's going to change. But like Steven said in our preview show, pound the rock. Like, if this is any week to figure it out, do it against a team that's not good at stopping the run.
Yeah, Mitchell Schwartz was on the Athletic Football Show talking about all of the teams that are dealing with the loss of a star left tackle. And, one of the things that he mentioned specifically that changes in your game plan are those like long developing deep play action concepts, because on those play designs, the left tackle is kind of the center stone of everything that's happening, because you're asking that left tackle to essentially act like he's run blocking, but then really pass blocking probably the best pass rusher on the field at that specific point, because you're usually overloading the left side of the field. So how does that change with Jamari? Well, you're going to ask Jamari to be, the focal point of blocking Jerry Hughes in this specific matchup, or Jonathan Grenard, or whoever the case may be. And I don't know if you can really do that at the same kind of level. So we're going to have to see, this team adjust. And that's something that Brandon Staley has talked about as well. They're going to have to make adjustments, change the game plan with the amount of injuries that they have been dealing with. So obviously Rashawn changes that. Justin's health changes that. But we'll see, man. Like, I think the kind of adjustments that I want to see from Joe Lombardi in this game plan aren't really adjustments that we've seen them make a ton of outside of like the Philadelphia game, where they went really like RPO heavy, bootleg heavy. There weren't many other games where they really kind of went out of their way to get Justin on the move to kind of protect him. So we'll see if that happens this week and going forward.
I mean, the name that we haven't mentioned in terms of injuries is the Jalen Guyton one. And I'm curious to see how that changes, how conservative or not conservative they are. Not that they were taking all these deep shots to Guyton, but we finally got the big one last game. And then, immediately sort of taken away from us. And now they signed John Hightower, who I would assume that they're going to activate tomorrow from the practice squad. So curious to see how he fits into these things as well. But just from the receiver group, you don't have Keenan Allen, who's your separator. You don't really have your deep shot guy. And so now you're sort of left with Williams, Carter, and Palmer to kind of figure out like who's going to be the guy that separates and gets those yards. It's probably not going to be Mike Williams. It's probably going to have to either be Carter or Palmer if the Chargers are going to have success in that regard this game.
Yeah, we'll find out in a few hours if they elevate anybody from the practice squad. But this receiving core of Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, Jason Moore, and DeAndre Carter, man, like I need some speed in there, guys. I really do. Like I need somebody to run less than a 4.4 for this to kind of work, I think. But we'll see how that works out. Quick shout outs, of course, to Zach Pearson for sending some good vibes and money to Zach Whitaker, as well as Ed Mieses, I'm guessing is that one, and then Tara Romero as well. Tara, big Oregon fan, hopefully going to meet up with her and a bunch of the other Chargers fans up in Oregon when I make that trip up there next month. So,
oh, you're going to Oregon for the Utah game?
Yes.
Wow.
That is so. It's,
that's right. Yeah.
Brooke and I. This is our 5th wedding anniversary this year, and so we obviously wanted to do a bit of a trip. So we're going up to Oregon. We're gonna go to the game and then spend a few days in Portland and in that area. So should be fun.
I will preemptively announce that I am the world's biggest Utah fan next week as they play Chip Kelly and the UCLA Bruins.
There we go. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Autzen, man. I've never been able to make it up there, and obviously the Pac-12 is kind of going down the shitter. So, wanted to make sure I got to some of these Pac-12 venues before the conference went away. All right, moving on to Corey Linsley. Sounds like he's going to play, even though he didn't practice at all yesterday. That's obviously a huge boost as they lose Rashawn Slater. You get Corey Linsley back in the lineup. Theoretically, that should help in various ways, right? Because you get a more sound protection plan with Corey in there. And I think as you're kind of pivoting to more of an inside running game, which I do expect them to do because of Jamari Salyer's lack of elite athleticism in space. Obviously getting Corey in there for Will Clapp, who had been fine. Like I think that Will Clapp is a capable backup. It's just, going from an all-pro center who's been there and seen everything is obviously a bit different. So getting Corey Linsley back this week, it should be a huge help.
Yeah, massive. Not that it was all on Will Clapp last week, but what did the Chargers allow in terms of pressures? Was it 25?
25 total, yeah.
25. Now, granted, they dropped back a lot and kind of unnecessarily, but still, like going from 25 to literally anything else but 25 that's below that would be great. So Corey Linsley back is huge, and part of the reason I'm more optimistic for this game.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see how this one's managed, because obviously we saw him play against the Chiefs, then come out at halftime and sort of try an injection and then not come back after that injection didn't take. So I'm more curious because obviously it seems like he's in position to play this week, but just how that'll be managed over the course of the game and over the course of these next few weeks. As if the Chargers are going to string together some wins here, they need Corey Linsley in the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And his leadership is obviously going to, be at the focal point going forward. So Tyler, you obviously did that interview with Jameson last weekend, talking about Corey Linsley's injury, and then also with JC Jackson's injury, who also will be back this week, does not have an injury designation himself. If you could just do like a quick summary of what you kind of heard last week from Jameson and what Chargers fans can expect about Corey and JC over the next few weeks.
I mean, JC being back is great. We're still not entirely sure. Like, it's such a weird situation. So everything's kind of a bit speculation with that one, but just seems like, nothing really got worse. He was just sore and, they tested it out. Didn't work out so well, like, or at least as maybe they would have hoped, but everything should be fine moving forward. And he said that, listen, if JC has been playing this entire time at like 90%, even with New England, and this helps him get to 100%, even though he missed a couple of games and it's frustrating, if he somehow gets to something better physically than he's ever been, that's huge. So that'd be awesome. So we're kind of optimistic there. And then Corey Linsley, it's just a management thing. Like he probably could have played last week, but it's managing that pain, that issue. Not quite like Justin Herbert, but sort of like it's a load management thing. He's sitting in that squat the whole damn game practically.
Yeah.
And then try to work on, like, I can't imagine having a knee issue and having to do that over and over and over again. So it's kind of just pain management. Can he tolerate certain things and whatnot? With that said, Jameson will be back on with me in like 2 hours. So I'll be interviewing him then. We'll get an update then. So I'll just have him re-explain everything. Also, I just want to update a couple things. So Thomas Martinez sent in a super chat. I'm Zach Pearson. We'll get to those questions in a bit. I know Jason Staley on the GoFundMe donated $200. That's huge. Zach Pearson has donated here. He also went to the GoFundMe, donated $15. And then my mom just went on to the GoFundMe and donated $500. So we're cruising. We're moving through, trying to help. I think we're between all of that, I think we're going to hit like $1,000. So we're cruising so far. It's looking really good. Thank you so much, guys. Everyone's doing a great job.
Yeah, honestly, appreciate that so much. I do think that the JC Jackson recovery, it's a huge boost. It cannot be said enough. The Chargers last week decided to blitz Trevor Lawrence on like 40% of his dropbacks, and it did not go so well. I felt like watching that film that Doug and Trevor like almost knew when the blitzes were coming and when to just immediately hit the hot routes, and it left the Chargers just kind of hanging. So the Chargers were playing a lot of zone last week. Did not necessarily do a great job of like passing off those concepts. And, there was a specific time where the Chargers had two guys over to the left side, and the two Jaguars receivers like just basically ran clear out routes, and then Travis Etienne just leaked out. It was like a 15-yard gain, like easy peasy. So the Chargers are going to have to workshop that, right? I think with JC in there, you can play a lot more man coverage, and you're able to probably be a more effective blitzing team, which outside of last week, they were a great blitzing team in the first two games. So getting JC back obviously changes the math, allows them to play more man coverage, which should free up more effective blitz looks, designer looks, as Brandon Staley calls them. All right. Obviously, we mentioned Keenan Allen. He's not playing this week. Sounds like he unfortunately did suffer a setback with the hamstring injury. Brandon Staley did not call it a significant setback, but obviously felt something off on Thursday, which is why he left with a trainer at practice. Jameson again mentioned last week that there's always a high chance of somebody with a hamstring injury re-injuring that hamstring injury or re-aggravating it as they kind of get back to football, which we've obviously seen with Donald Parham. And now we're seeing, unfortunately, again with Keenan Allen. So not going to play this week. I'd be pretty surprised if he plays next week at this point, given how Brandon Staley has kind of handled the Donald Parham injury. Until we see Keenan Allen be a full participant in practice, I don't think anybody should be expecting him back over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's really fucking peachy.
I know, it's great.
Again, I'll talk to Jameson in a bit about this, so I'll kind of get an understanding of maybe what could be going on here, but definitely unfortunate. We're just so close to getting this offense just close-ish enough, even without Rashawn Slater, and just a setback. It's pretty disappointing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I think really what they lose with Keenan Allen is just, a lot, but their ability to just create easy opportunities. And right now they don't have that because Mike Williams is not going to be that separating type of receiver. Josh Palmer really hasn't been to this point either. DeAndre Carter occasionally, but like they don't really have guys that can separate right now. And that's going to be a huge problem aside from maybe Austin Eckler coming out of the backfield once in a while or Gerald Everett on a couple concepts. So, losing Keenan Allen and just him as the safety valve, him as everything is just so huge in terms of his connection with Herbert as well. So I think that's really what the loss of Keenan Allen is. Probably for, I don't want to say the foreseeable future, but if he's already re-aggravated a hamstring, then I think the Chargers are probably going to play pretty conservative for at least the next 2 or 3 weeks, like Steven said.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we find out in a few hours that he gets placed on IR. We'll see, but given what that re-aggravation process can look like, I just have a hard time thinking that he's back in 3 weeks. Like I don't know. I guess we'll see. Donald Parham should be back next week, which is good news. Did a full participant in practice on Friday, which was great news. Sounds like they are just wanting him to get fully back up to speeding and being conservative there, which I think is ultimately smart. Obviously signed Richard Rodgers to the active roster this week. So we'll see what happens in terms of roster construction, but it does sound like Donald Parham should get back on the field next week against the Browns, which would be a huge boost in the blocking game because they have really missed him. I've talked about this a lot, but the Chargers ask a ton out of their tight ends in the blocking game, and it just has not been the same without Parham. So hopefully he doesn't suffer another setback, but sounds like he should be good to go next week against the Browns.
Genuinely asking because I do not know. We have Salyer, you have Pipkins. What are you doing with your tight ends to help either of those guys or both?
Yeah, so I think we'll see a lot of chipping, pretty much going forward. I think that's probably what you're doing with Trey McKitty. Obviously, you're doing a lot of slide protections. I feel okay about Pipkins being on a relative island, if I'm being completely honest. I obviously he's not going to be performing at the same level of Rashawn Slater, but it's funny, right? Because last year the left tackle is just this elite side, right? You're funneling every kind of help possible to the right side. The left side is kind of the focal point of the rushing attack. And now this year, I feel like you just have to flip everything, right? Like I think you run towards Zion and Pipkins as much as you can. You slide left as opposed to slide right. So I expect a lot of help for Salyer. I don't think they're going to leave him on an island, particularly because Jerry Hughes has been balling this year, and he's mostly rushing against left tackles. So lots of chipping. Of course, you can bring Xander Horvath in there as well. I would expect them to have 6-man protections on pretty much like every route concept, or at least kind of like delayed leak outs from the running backs. So that obviously changes things too. Like it's much harder to be an effective passing game when you can't have 5 receivers out running routes. You're going to have 4 pretty much on every single passing concept until Salyer kind of gets comfortable.
Yeah, and the main way that they miss Parham right now, I think, is the red zone. They don't have tight ends. Like Gerald Everett's like good, but they don't have tight ends in the red zone right now. That can work as effectively as Donald Parham does, and so I think that's like really the big thing. In addition to the blocking, in addition to all the other stuff Parham does, like that's clearly the one thing they've wanted from their tight end room that they just haven't gotten to this point because Parham hasn't played, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's it for the injuries. 20 minutes.
Wow, only 22 minutes this time. It was 30 last time. So progress.
Yeah, last time it was only, I think it ended up being 15 minutes longer. So all right, we'll get to our weekly pick segment here. Alex gets to go first. So Alex gets probably the biggest layup pick of any layup pick we've ever had in the last 3 years doing this podcast. So Alex, take it away. Who's your first pick?
I will take Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers over Brian Hoyer and Matt Patricia. So thank you for that one. I picked the right week to go first, and if this ends up blowing up in my face, I'll probably just not pick any games for the rest of the season. But this should be a win.
You got Aaron Rodgers right last week, so 2 weeks in a row with the Packers.
Yeah, it was the one I thought I was gonna get wrong, and it was the only one I got right last week. So yeah, maybe he'll come through for me again this week.
Yeah. All right. My pick. I picked them obviously to win the Super Bowl. I'm going Bills over Ravens. I don't feel great about it, but there aren't many other favorites that I do feel great about. So I'm gonna trust the Bills to bounce back against the Ravens. The Ravens obviously dealing with a lot of injuries in the secondary. So I do expect obviously Josh Allen and Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs to be able to take advantage of that secondary. So I'm going Bills over Ravens for my favorite.
Wow. I would not have gone with them so early, but hey, go for it. That's awesome. Good for you. My favorite. I don't know how I feel about this one. I'm gonna go with the Eagles over the Jaguars.
Hell yeah!
Alex would have taken it next anyway, or at least either or. So, hey, they're the only undefeated team right now. Obviously, I'm slightly more scared of the Jaguars after watching them do what they did to the Chargers, but I feel like the Eagles, good in the trenches. Everything's kind of clicking right now. And obviously they're undefeated. So yeah, Eagles over Jaguars for me.
Yeah, the Eagles schedule over the next few weeks, man. Like I mean, obviously the Jaguars are much tougher, right? But then after this game, you go Cardinals, Cowboys, Steelers, Texans, Commanders. Like, this is genuinely their hardest game. I mean, the Colts after that. This is their hardest game until Thanksgiving. So that's fun. All right, we've been snaking this, I think, I want to say. So I think, Tyler, that means you get the first underdog.
Okay. I don't know. I don't really know why this is even an underdog. But unless I'm reading this wrong, I'm going to go with the Rams over the 49ers.
Yeah.
I don't really know why that they're not favored. I mean, I guess you have the San Francisco,
Home
beat it
field, I
in
guess.
McVay sort of thing. But like, am I really thinking that the Niners are going to beat the Rams? Not really. So I'll go with the Rams over the 49ers.
This is what Jimmy G does, though. You pick against him one week, and then the next week, like, he'll just have like this 2-touchdown game where San Francisco wins by 14. I don't know. This is what happens with him. So
Yeah.
All right, underdog. For me, one of the biggest surprises of the season so far, I think, is that the Falcons are like good at offense. They're weird. They're one of the only two teams to be top 10 in DVOA in running and passing. So I'm going to go with the Falcons over the Browns, who are playing without Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney today. So again, don't usually like picking a team like the Falcons in this scenario, but given the injuries that the Browns are dealing with on defense, I think Falcons make a lot of sense.
Yeah, my underdog pick will be a team that I don't think really should be an underdog, but Denver is a 2.5-point dog to the Las Vegas Raiders. That feels like a pretty easy one to take right now. Obviously, Denver's offense is not very good, and probably along there with Vegas for one of the most underwhelming offenses in the league so far. But at the same time, Denver is 5th in defensive DVOA. Vegas is in the 20s. So I will trust Denver's defense. I will not trust Russ at all, but I will lean on the Denver defense there and everything it's done to this point to get the win over Vegas. Hunter Renfrow also out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a real test to see if the Broncos can get to like 17 points. It's like my fantasy football squad. Can you get to 90 points this week? We'll see what happens.
I know you messaged us. Hey, I finally crossed 100 points this week. Like, oh, jeez.
I finally got to 100 and I ended up getting like 125 or something like that. It was a miracle.
That's awesome.
All right, Alex, your either or pick here.
All right. Either or pick for this week with what we have left. Did someone take the Arizona game yet or no?
Not yet.
No.
All right. Fine. I'll ride with it. Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals defeat the Carolina Panthers. Technically a 1-point dog in that game.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me, but then again, it's Cliff Kingsbury, so I mean that's like a 3-point swing against Arizona every time. So I'll take the Cardinals in that one. I just don't trust anything Matt Rule or Baker Mayfield do, so instinctively I will just bet against them every time.
Yeah, did you guys see all the DJ Moore stuff from this week?
Trade rumors and stuff, or
I don't know how much I buy the trade rumors, but they're all of the reporters in Carolina are asking like, why isn't DJ Moore getting the football right now? And Matt Rule was like, well, receivers have to get open. That's their job. It's like, I'm pretty sure DJ Moore is getting open, man.
It's literally it's Odell Part 2. It's the same thing from last year.
Yeah.
DJ Moore's dad is gonna have to post like NFL Game Pass clips on Instagram to like get him out of there.
Yeah, literally. All right, for my pick here, I thought about going with the Vikings over the Saints, but weird things always happen in London. Obviously Andy Dalton is playing instead of Jameis and Michael Thomas is out. So I still thought about it, but I'm going to take the Lions over the Seahawks as my other pick. I know Amon-Ra St. Brown is out, but the Seahawks defense is just not very good, and the Lions still are just like destroying everybody in the ground game. So I'm going to take the Lions to bounce back this week against the Seahawks.
Nice. Not a whole lot left here. I mean, who wants to touch Chiefs Bucks? I don't know if I really want to. That could literally go either way. I was going to take Lions over Seahawks, so thanks for that one. But it's okay. I'm going to actually go with the Raiders over the Broncos. I feel like they're sort of
head to head
for one. Yeah, head to head for sure. So someone's got to win there. Starting Mac Hollins in fantasy because he's the receiver fantasy god right now. Yeah, I'm just emotionally very invested in this game this week. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think the Raiders are eventually going to win. I mean, this is a tough like rooting thing because like them being 0-4 would be hilarious, but then that would mean the Broncos would be 3-1, and it's like,
yeah,
I don't know which one of those I want to happen less.
No. I
which
want
is
Josh
great.
McDaniels to be 0-4. That's the one I want.
Okay, good to know.
Make the Broncos win, but make it just be like another like 10-7 game or just some other like.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, we'll get to some Chargers score predictions here, and then we'll take some questions. So there are some super chat questions that we need to get to, but again, if you guys do feel so obliged, we obviously appreciate all of that support that will go to Zach and Trace and the Whitaker family. So Tyler, why don't you kick us off here with your Chargers score prediction?
Kick us off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really sweet. Like I said all week, I really did not know whether I was going to pick the Chargers to win or not against the fucking Houston Texans, but here we are. This is where we're at in the year. The point spread total, I think right now is like 44 points expected, which is really depressing considering the Chargers should literally be able to do that on their own. But here we are. So I'm going to pick them to win because going into the game against the Jaguars, they were at least, even after 2 weeks, top 9, top 7, a lot of categories. The Texans aren't good. Like, they're not good right now. Now, the Chargers aren't really all that great either, but I think they're slightly less bad currently. And in theory, Herbert's a little bit better. And in theory, things get a bit better. I'm going to go Chargers win, but it's going to be literally like barely. And I'm praying for good special teams and like a JC pick or something.
I mean, I think that was somebody's bold prediction. Wasn't that yours?
No, it was mine.
Okay. There you go. All right, I'll go next here. Similar thought process. I think the Chargers obviously very banged up at this point. Losing Rashawn and Joey is just huge on both sides. I do think that Corey coming back, JC coming back is at least a bit of a boost, and obviously Justin being healthier. So I do expect them to get the run game going, not to the extent of like the Texans who are giving up like 200 yards per game on the ground or something like absurd like that. But I think they'll get over 100 yards rushing, which should be a huge help. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not saying that super confidently, I guess, but I'm going to take the Chargers slightly bigger margin of victory than you have. I'm going to say 23-17. So I think they cover barely. So I can feel the confidence from Alex just like oozing through the computer screen.
I'll take the Chargers 24-23. I think we're all around the same point this week. But man, part of this pick is just what the fuck is this podcast going to be if they lose to the Texans? Like,
yeah,
they just can't. They can't lose this game. And look, Justin Herbert's really good. And this is one of those games where I think he's going to have to carry, and I think he will. Davis Mills is not Trevor Lawrence, like to me, and Lovie Smith is not Doug Peterson. So I think that the Chargers can scheme things better this week, hopefully. And I think that overall, they can't lose this game. And that's why I'm picking the Chargers.
Yeah, if the Chargers lose this game, I will have to go pick up like an extra shift or something because we're going to lose like half of our audience the entire rest of the year.
Yeah, and I think that would kind of put the Chargers like officially in not playoff territory. So if you're 2-2, obviously you feel a lot better than 1-3. So, all right, we'll get to some of these super chat questions. Saw a couple more in there. I see Arjun as well as Holden. So appreciate that from you two. We'll start with Thomas's question. Got to go to work. Best wishes to Zach, Trace, and family. His question is, who has to die for Michael Bandy and Isaiah Spiller to get on game day rosters? And then he put Bolt fam. So in terms of
Jason Moore has to die. Joe Reed also has to perish. Really all the practice squad receivers. And then Spiller, probably Sony Michel.
Yeah. So in terms of Spiller, Brandon Staley and Joe Lombardi were each asked about that this week. And basically, like they don't think that he, a lot of people have talked about special teams and pass protection, right? But they flat out don't think that Isaiah Spiller is one of their 3 best running backs. Like that's kind of where we're at with Isaiah Spiller at this point. Brandon Staley made sure to say that they're not down on Isaiah Spiller, that they still believe in him, that they really like the way that he's practicing. But that was not obviously a ringing endorsement to say that he needs to be one of the 3 best backs. So we'll see how much that changes, man, because like this running game is just bad right now. And if it continues to be bad, at some point you just got to play the young guy, I think.
I love how in free agency they're like, well, we didn't see any running backs we like, so we're going to draft one. And then they draft one. They're like, no, we'll sign Sony Michel instead. Like, we don't like the guy that we drafted. It's just, I don't know. I guess the good news is that Spiller it's literally one injury away from him stepping onto the field. Like, he is the next guy for sure.
Yeah,
I would assume, unless they sign someone. So there's that. For Bandy, I think it has to be like a Carter injury. I think that's when you start to get, because he is the backup, or he was like in the preseason, the backup returner. So I don't know if they would do that like full time if Carter went down, but there's definitely a road to him being on the field if Carter goes down.
I mean, they definitely have a type at receiver at this point, which is 6'3" plus and slow. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if they would ever have like two little slot receivers on the field at the same time. Obviously, that's DeAndre Carter. So honestly, it's pretty simple to me. If DeAndre Carter is healthy, Mike Bandy is not on the field.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, I don't know why Spiller can't get on the field. Like, it just
me neither.
I don't understand it. You used a 4th round pick on him, and now you're not going to play him. Like, I get that it's not all about draft pick status and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, put your money where your mouth is. You used a very high day 3 pick to go get Isaiah Spiller. Like, play him. As much as I talk shit about the pick, or other people did, or other people defended it at the time, like, you have to see what the pick's going to be. Otherwise, are we just pushing this till next year to see if like this pick will pan out? Like, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it at this point. But if they really feel at this point that he's not better than what you're getting out of a pretty washed Sony Michel, like, I don't know. Like, that's not promising.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily down on Isaiah Spiller, but it's just difficult for me to look at the players that were drafted right after Isaiah Spiller and be like, oh, man. I mean, you're talking about Zach Tom, you're talking about Romeo Dobbs, you're talking about a bunch of players who are like effective backups at worst for their team right now. I mean, Zach Tom is the Packers swing tackle at this point. Like, he's the backup right tackle, he's a backup guard. Like, it's just difficult, man. And obviously seeing JT Woods not play a lot either is not fun. It's not, when you look at the draft listing of what happened and all the players that they could have chosen. And instead they went with a safety and a running back who cannot see the field in place of Alohi Gilman and Sony Michel.
This is fun.
All right, we'll move on to the next question. Zach Pearson, Staley and Lombardi have their issues, but I hope they can get it clicking. In your opinion, who's the worst coaching staff the Chargers have had? Mike McCoy for me.
Yeah.
They had a weirdly good staff with McCoy. Like, some guys left and did really well. But like, in terms of head coach, coordinator, and defensive coordinator, yeah, probably Mike McCoy. McCoy as the coach in the last 3, like the picture of him being consoled on the sideline with like his head down by Antonio Gates. We're going to get better in all 3 phases, like the same freaking thing every gosh dang week. That was rough. That said, does have a playoff win, and Brendan Staley does not.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I guess they beat the Bengals in that first year, huh?
Yeah, and like a supposedly decent Bengals team. And if they weren't so banged up, they might have beat the Broncos the next time too. So
yeah, and Anthony Lynn has the Ravens win.
Yeah, that's a huge one too.
The final year of Anthony Lynn's coaching staff was pretty freaking bad too.
That was terrible.
And it's so funny to me that everybody looks at Philadelphia now as like, Shane Steichen's a genius. We should have kept him. It's like, did we watch 2020? Like, did we watch the same team?
The team that's like 20th in every category in offense. That's the one we want back. Also, isn't Shane's not even calling plays, right?
No, Shane's calling plays now.
Oh, he is.
Yeah. That happened like with like 4 or 5 games left last year. He started calling the plays.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, so I don't know. Like Arjun has also pointed this out. I think there were a lot of people at PFF who like apparently defended like Shane Steichen back in 2020. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think it not crying tears that like we didn't keep Shane Steichen, but at the same time, I'm not surprised he developed into an okay play caller in Philadelphia. But right now on offense, I also feel like he has a little bit more cohesiveness and definitely a better offensive line to work with, which helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got the best offensive line in the league right now, first of all, which is a huge help. I think he deserves credit for leaning into what the Eagles do well, right? And, that running game is just so hard to prepare for. And so he does deserve credit for obviously, evolving and changing and improving. But, acting like the Chargers should have kept him is just ludicrous to me. All right, Arjun, I mentioned his super chat earlier. He says, super chat courtesy of the Jags and Texans who will make this back for him tomorrow anyway. And then he says,
Arjun.
his family. So there you go.
Well, Arjun, are you in the chat? What did you bet specifically for the Texans? Like that they'd win or just to cover?
I think he just put to cover. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I would bet that then. Yeah. Probably a good one.
We had another Bandy super chat. What is wrong with Welker 2.0? At least Bandy can get separation. Welker 2.0 is a bit of a stretch. Wes Welker, we're talking about like arguably the best slot receiver ever. So I get the sentiment. Again, there's a lot of love for Michael Bandy. I understand that. I felt like he should have made the roster because of what he proved. But it's just pretty simple to me. Like they don't want 2 small slot receivers on the field at the same time.
Yeah. The problem is that the kind of receiver that the Chargers value sucks and is not very good. So in terms of an archetype, not that I'm saying Bandy is like a whole lot better, but I don't know. The way that I'd like to see them play it, as I said it from day one, is like if Keenan Allen's out, just activate Michael Bandy. You're not starting Bandy in place of Allen, 1-for-1, but like if he can play a couple snaps and maybe get a catch or 2, like that's kind of what you're asking him to do. Especially effectiveness on special teams as well. If Mike Williams is out, then you probably should go to Jason Moore, right? Like, and activate him. Like, I just think it should be a skill set for skill set thing as opposed to like, okay, Keenan Allen's out, so we're gonna activate Jason Moore and then not play him. Like that's been the thing for the decision making there. So I don't know. I have consistently disagreed with the Chargers and the types of receivers that they like. I don't understand their fascination with trying to get all the slow receivers like it's some reverse Thanos Infinity Gauntlet thing. But yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know that DeAndre Carter was 5'8".
I think he's 5'9".
He's 5'8 and a half, but
he's a short king.
5'9". Yeah, I did not know that was
very little.
Oh, I mean, he plays awesome. Yeah. That's the other thing, though. Like, have the Chargers really gotten DeAndre Carter involved? Not really. Like, it almost feels like just it happens, not because they specifically.
He's not like the number one read by any means. No.
Yeah. So when are we getting Bandy involved in that progression?
That's true.
Probably not. Like, if Carter himself, who they signed, who is at this point a better pro, can't even really get involved, I don't really see Bandy getting involved either. Not that he wouldn't be good, but this team clearly like does not know how to get Carter super involved. So I don't really see Bandy also getting involved.
Yeah, I think it just at this point, like the Jason Moore thing doesn't make any sense to me. And I understand like if you want to activate him for a game or two, but you don't need to sign him to the active roster. Like you didn't need to do that. You still had more times to activate him if you wanted to from the practice squad. I just feel like they should have been kind of waiting and just been more experimental with the receiver core at this point. Like, let's see what Joe Reed can do. Let's see what Michael Bandy can do. Let's see what John Hightower can do. And then you can decide who to sign to the active roster. So I didn't like that they just made that decision preemptively and were like, oh, Jason Moore's been here, like let's just roll with it. Because now you're talking about, in 4 receiver sets, you're talking about Jason Moore, Mike Williams on the outside, DeAndre Carter, Josh Palmer in the slot. There's just no spacing there, man. There's no speed. There's nobody's threatening vertically. Like, I just have a hard time envisioning that being like a successful 4 receiver set. All right, Holden Sanchez here. Glad you're helping the Bull family and fellow dad. Best wishes to baby Trace and family. Bolt up. Appreciate the super chat there. Holden, another one of the original supporters of the show. So appreciate that, Holden.
Just a couple on LDE Bruin is usually in here donating or saying something. He donated to the GoFundMe. That's great. My dad also donated. So we're cruising. The GoFundMe is at 2,500 right now.
Ooh, nice.
So that's up like $1,000 from yesterday. So that's great.
There we go. I didn't miss any other super chats, did I?
I will. So there's one from Steve. Oh, sorry, you just said that one. I don't believe so.
I'm scrolling up. I think I got all of them, but
yeah, you hit every super chat so far. And yeah, see, guys, proof that there's at least one good Raiders fan in the world.
Zach mentioned this earlier. Can never thank everyone enough for this. It's a tough spot to be in. I always generally hate asking for help.
Yeah.
But I think it takes obviously a special circumstance to, reach out to people like this, and obviously echo the same thoughts, man. I think, we always do stuff like this, or not always, but every time we do this, it's a good turnout. People are so generous with the way that they support people in a tough time, which I think is very needed in today's society. So obviously I'm not going through it, but I do want to echo Zach's thoughts and just thank you guys for supporting him, supporting us, and spreading the good vibes today.
Yeah, we're in the witching hour. We have 25 minutes left. So to get down to the real ethos of the show, to help Zach and his family, super chat in your best food question.
I feel like we have to cross like an hour and 10 minutes and then go on a 20 to 25 minute food tangent.
Look,
like,
we might lose to the Texans tomorrow. This is dire straits.
Oh, if we lose to the Texans, we'll make
it's just a food podcast.
Live. Yeah, it's just me cooking in the back with funeral potatoes. Like, Steven can walk us through a cooking demo for 20 minutes.
There we go.
I'm just gonna fly to Florida and shoot every bird outside of an hour. It's me with buckshot shooting little birds.
Just sit on a bucket with a BB gun and just going ham.
No, I'm bringing a 12 gauge. I'm just gonna shoot everything that walks.
Oh my goodness. Athir asking, can Everett get 100 yards this week? We've seen him get close, I feel like, haven't we?
Didn't he have 70 like something?
Didn't he have like 70 against the Chiefs?
Isn't he our leading receiver right now?
Actually, I think DeAndre Carter might be our leading receiver right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's either him or Carter, but it's possible.
Are you looking it up, Tyler?
Yeah.
Okay.
They just do things.
I think one of them's tied for like 45th in the league and the other's like 51st or something.
I think Williams is like 4th in receiving yards or 3rd. It's Eckler ahead of him. Hold on. I saw this earlier too. So Everett's tied with DeAndre Carter for the lead with 150.
Okay.
Then Eckler, then Mike Williams. Eckler has a 1-yard lead over Williams. Williams is a 4-yard lead over Josh Palmer. So if Josh Palmer has a decent week, Mike Williams will be the 5th leading receiver on this team with Keenan out.
This is coping. This is how we cope on the podcast. No, like I think it's definitely frustrating that they're not kind of funneling targets towards Mike Williams. It's like you're paying him $20 million to just like be third fiddle to DeAndre Carter and Josh Palmer. Like, I don't get it.
DeAndre Carter is the best receiver on the Chargers, but this is not how I wanted it to happen.
It's your fault.
I know it is.
Oh my goodness. All right, we had Zach Pearson with another super chat. He's just on fire today. Which Charger player, current and former, would you bring with you to a fight? So you get 2 players to bring with you to a fight. I think you have to go with Mike Pouncey. Like, I think Mike Pouncey has to be one of the choices here.
Can I bring Antonio Cromartie and I get all 20 of his kids? Is that an option?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Current Charger. I'm trying to think of like who's like the meanest. My first thought here was Sebastian Joseph Day, but like he's so nice.
It would have been Linval if it were still here.
100%.
100% would have been Linval.
I think it's Khalil, probably.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, that's a good one.
I feel
he's got
like,
the money to win the lawsuit too, so all good.
Yeah, Khalil's a good one. So I'll officially go with Khalil and Mike Pouncey.
Yeah, probably Sean Merriman is another former one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would low-key want to see Phillip Rivers throw down because I think he probably could. Like, he's just unbeatable. Like, no injuries sustained. His like stamina and chin is like at maxed out.
Holden Sanchez says Lorenzo Neal. Yeah, that's a good one as well. Unfortunately, has a bit of a history with that. But it's okay. You know, you're not here. This is like not talking about a morality question here. So I think that's a fine choice.
No one's bringing Michael Bandy.
I think the future lawyer that's 5'7" is probably the lowest person on that list for me.
I'm bringing Michael Bandy to a chess match though. You schedule like that any day of the week. I'm taking Michael Bandy.
There you go. Stephen Rutledge, best brisket method: foil, paper, or boat. I have no idea. I like to cook, but I've never smoked a brisket. Yeah, so if anybody else in the chat wants to ask that question, you can go ahead. I feel like I've mostly see foil, but I don't know. LA Chargers fan, think there could be a change in philosophy this week. Staff maybe feels the pressure, making a change to Sawyer in the Lombardi admitting he was conservative. The change to Sawyer surprised me. It surprised all of us, but Alex, what do you make of a potential change in coaching philosophy?
I don't know if it's a change in coaching philosophy other than they realized, hey, we threw Storm Norton out there for 17 games last year. We can't do that again or we're going to get fired. Like, was that the change? You know, I mean, I think the big thing there was they had always kind of, you know, the idea throughout the offseason was kicking Filer out to right tackle. And then, you know, you put Pipkins out at left tackle then. But, you know, that with Filer's performance this year, I think that probably changed their ideas, like what would happen in this emergency situation. But I think this is always kind of how they viewed Storm Norton, right? Like they view him after the Raiders game last year as solely an emergency backup. And now I think that's getting put to the test because they don't trust him with their jobs on the line very clearly.
Yeah, I think if in regards to the decision for Sawyer, I think we all would have felt very differently if they had him in that competition from day one and said like, hey, we're going to draft this guy. We're just going to do our best to get him on the field. We think he's one of our best 5 linemen or best 6 linemen, and we'll figure out his spot later. He can play tackle. He can play guard. I think we would all feel very different with this situation. I mean, he said that he's taken like left tackle reps and right tackle reps on his own, like after practice and like working with his trainer and like stuff like that. Sure, I don't know, but he didn't take any left tackle snaps in practice, in training camp, or anything like that. So again, I feel like if you had this plan for him to be like just a swing lineman and we're just playing him everywhere, I think we would feel differently about A, the situation, and B, the draft, because then that means that you got your backup left tackle in the 6th round, which I think obviously kind of helps that situation be a little bit more positive.
I wonder how much Nugent plays into Sawyer switching or going to left tackle. Like, would they have done this last year with Frank Smith? I don't know. They didn't do a whole lot of shuffling last year. But someone thankfully stepped in and said, listen, please, good God, do not make me do this with Storm Norton. So whoever that was, awesome.
Yeah. Hat tip to whoever that was. Here's our food question. Tyler's mom wants to know favorite food your mom makes. So Tyler can certainly answer this question. My favorite meal that my mom makes is pot roast. She makes a great pot roast, mashed potatoes, carrots, with a nice little like Caesar salad. So that's always my request whenever I go back home.
Beef Wellington. If you ever had beef Wellington, it's amazing.
Interesting.
It's a big,
Okay.
giant filet mignon with prosciutto and mushroom, coated around it, and then you put like this pastry around it as well. Just look it up; it's amazing, and it's so good. Like, spared no expense on the filet mignon. It's always like the great piece, and it's delicious. And yeah, that's the best thing I think.
Would never have guessed an English meal for in the Shun family.
For my white mother, yeah. Who would have thought?
I thought you said your mom was like Italian.
No, I mean she's a little bit Italian, sure. Like, she's not like, we're not English, but like she's white.
Okay, fair enough. Alex, anything to add there?
Well, I just want to say on the beef Wellington thing, my YouTube shorts have been rated by Gordon Ramsay roasting like people's beef Wellington attempts. So I've seen that. Favorite food my mom makes, pelmeni. I like the one she makes. Other than that, I don't like my mom's cooking, to be completely honest with you. Whenever she orders out, that's better. She doesn't watch the podcast anyway, so that's for the best.
Jesus. DoorDash.
Yeah. I hate it when other family members can't cook and you have to eat their food and say it's good. So
yeah, whenever we have Thanksgiving with my mom's family, her sister always volunteers to make the turkey, and it's just always, it's awful. It's terrible. So last year when we went to Thanksgiving, I volunteered to take a tri-tip, and that was fantastic.
What?
Is there somebody behind Alex?
No, is like the Slender Man behind me or something? I don't know.
Zach, you seeing Ghost Man?
I don't know. Yeah, are you wait, who was the guy who was seeing ghosts last year? Was it? Oh, it was Sam Darnold that year.
Sam Darnold, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, anytime I think about like any family members cooking that I don't like, it's that like Everybody Loves Raymond episode where like he's trying to like spaghetti and meatballs and like trying to get a positive review on it, but he just can't.
Jesus with another super chat. Telesco and Co failed at drafting Khalil Herbert and not drafting Khalil Herbert. Now we'll never see Herbert hand off to Herbert. We've talked about that a lot, so that's definitely playing to the crowd here. But he wants to know, what's the top priority so far for next year's draft at this point?
I promise Jesus Lorenzo is not a burner that I made. I promise.
You would never give us money, Alex.
I wouldn't.
In terms of next year's draft, though, I mean, just kind of projecting forward of like who's free agents and stuff like that. We know Brandon Staley is going to want to invest it in the trenches. So I would put strong money on a pass rusher next year.
Depends on what, I guess is most prevalent at the top of the first rounds and second rounds, which we'll see. Just more premium positions, right? Like they just need guys who can contribute at edge, pass rusher, like Steven said. I wouldn't be surprised, knowing Staley's aggressive nature and probably Michael Davis being gone, that they go for another cornerback as well on the defensive side of the ball. Probably like a 6'4", 4'8" wide receiver. I mean, like that's probably what they're going to go for. But yeah.
Yeah, defensive back I think is a good one because Nasir Adderley is a free agent, hasn't been playing well. Lohi Gilman also a free agent. Mark Webb is a free agent. So safety room right now is currently Derwin and JT Woods. So I guess strong money on an edge was probably a little bit of a strong of a take, but defensive back, edge, I feel like it's probably 1 and 2 at this point.
No, I don't hate the idea of trenches in general, but I do believe pass rusher is kind of it. And I feel like we've always said the last 3 years, wouldn't rule out an edge rusher in the first round, especially with, listen, Joey Bosa doesn't stay very healthy. And after 2023, there is an out for them. Will they take it? I don't know. Why would, he's one of the best pass rushers in the league. At the same time, if we're consistently at this point where you're missing, 6 games, 8 games, if it gets worse this year, next year we have more injury issues, I could see edge rusher being something they address next year, just to get ahead of both Khalil and Joey either getting up there in age or getting hurt again. And right now, like edge 3 is not it's not good. It's been very limited action for them, but it hasn't worked out. They do need somebody else. And if it's a bit of a luxury to take another edge rusher at next year in the first round, fine. But all of a sudden you'll really want one really, really bad, and all of a sudden it will really make a lot of sense that they took one.
Well, wide receiver could be interesting. I mean, we obviously with Keenan's status right now, throughout the season, Mike Williams sort of on a 2-year deal here, and then you just get to the fact that they haven't invested that much in wide receiver in these drafts outside of Josh Palmer in the Brandon Staley era. So we obviously heard rumors the last 2 years of do they trade up for Jameson Williams, or do they make that move up the draft? So I wouldn't say that was always something. It probably was closer to nothing than it was to something, but at the same time, I could see them just thinking, hey, we have Justin Herbert, let's go get a premium kind of playmaker.
Yeah. I think we do see probably a defensive pick next year. Obviously a lot of people are going to talk about right tackle, but honestly, man, Trey Pipkins has been good. No qualifiers, good. So, I think they're potentially set at right tackle with Pipkins. They definitely need to get a new swing tackle next year. Absolutely needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they could probably do that in free agency.
Was the market down for right tackles this year because they just weren't great, or because some guys signed for really cheap, and I don't think Pipkins really exceeds most of those guys. It feels like Morgan Moses' contract, right? That sort of range. Although Moses probably should have gotten more.
Yeah, the market in general is just it's such a big drop off from the top guys to that next tier.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about Taylor Moton is 5th right now, and Rob Havenstein is 6th, and that's a $6.5 million difference between the two of them. So, we'll see. Chukwuma Okorafor got I think it was 3 years at 9.75. That feels like a lot to me. Lyle Collins got 3 for $21. That feels like the absolute ceiling. But yeah, I think you could realistically justify, again, he has to keep finishing the season this way.
Sure.
But if he keeps this up, I feel like you could justify a 3 for 18 for Trey Pipkins. And that would put him, right in Trent Brown, Morgan Moses territory, right in between those two players.
Imagine
what a world, man. This is
I
cannot believe I'm sitting here watching Trey Pipkins on film, and I'm he's good. Full stop. He's played at a really high level right now, in terms of right tackles. And obviously I'm not going to call him an elite right tackle by any means. But he's playing well, man, and he deserves a contract next year, in my opinion.
I would argue too, he hasn't hit his ceiling, right? I know he's developed for 4 years, but he just is officially now a starter. So yeah, I'll take it.
Hey, they were already talking about the draft.
Oh yeah, we're about 27 hours away from potentially really
in the worst case scenario. I think if they lose to the Texans tomorrow and it's bad, if it's over 20 points, then we just do a mock draft and throw out the show. It's just a mock draft. Just
full 7-rounder.
Full 7-rounder.
No clue who anyone outside of the top 25
yeah
is. Let's go.
Just helmet drafting.
Ed saying there needs to be a waiver in Trey Pipkins' contract that he needs to continue training with Duke. I mean, I would imagine that he keeps doing that because it worked out so well.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, no reason not to.
How would you? All right.
What kind of year would you need to see from Salyer to commit to him as your right tackle? Or if you see a good year from him, is he just your left guard?
I think if you see a good year from him, he's just the left guard. I think if Salyer plays well, then you're cutting Matt Filer, which would kind of suck from what he was last year. But then you're talking about Rashawn Slater, Jamari Salyer, Corey Lindsey, Zion Johnson, and Trey Pipkins being your starting lineup. And then you can add some quality veteran backups.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you still have Hymas. So
what's the cap on cutting Filer again? Is it $7 million that they save or something along those lines?
It's 6.5, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like if that kind of pays for you to get Pipkins, which just sounds insane. What are we
I know.
doing? Ask me
Prioritizing Trey Pipkins over Matt Filer. If you would have told me that would be happening a month ago, I would be like, "The fuck are you talking about?"
Oh man,
That's football.
Yeah. So officially, they take a $2 million dead cap and cut him Matt Filer and save 6.5.
Okay.
And then you're also talking about potentially cutting Michael Davis, which how much do we say
That's
saves them? It's like
7.
7, right?
It's 9 in base salary and then 2 in dead cap, so I think it's 7.
Yeah, 7.4 is the official savings there. So that's a good chunk of change for some free agents and some re-signings that you can make. All right, so we'll take one more super chat. Someone's got one more super chat, and then we'll head out of here. So if you want it to be a food question, we've officially passed an hour. So hit us up with your.
Someone did ask if Utah is more likely to win at Oregon or Rutgers is more likely to cover 40.5 at Ohio State. And I think it's Utah over Oregon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They're favored by what?
Ohio State is a 40.5 point favorite over Rutgers in Ohio.
Oh my god.
So Ohio State, they've scored the most touchdowns in college football so far this year. Their offense is like insane.
Marvin Harrison is gonna have like 6 touchdowns tonight.
Yeah, I know they got off to a little bit of a slow start against Notre Dame, and people were like, "Oh, this is not going to be the good team." It's like Ohio State's a great team. Their offense.
Yeah,
is
I'm just
insane.
straight up not watching. I'm not gonna watch it. I can't do it to myself again.
But if you guys had to guess who is second in touchdowns scored this year, who would you guess in college football?
Is this something where it ends up being Utah?
No. It's not a Utah-related question.
That's my first thought. Yeah.
No, the answer is actually Kansas. The Kansas
Wow.
Jayhawks have the second most touchdowns in college football.
Rock chalk.
Yeah. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions popping up. Not UCLA. I mean, they scored like 17 points against South Alabama last week. So that makes sense what they were able to do against Washington. All right. I think that's a good spot to end it then. Alex, any final thoughts about tomorrow before we head out?
We're going to beat the Texans because I need to keep saying this over and over again for my sanity.
Oh, we just got one more super chat.
Favorite
All
cartoons
good. Zach's been firing away, so he deserves to.
This is actually a really fun question. I loved cartoons growing up as a kid. We'll go youngest to oldest here. So, Alex, what were your favorites?
Well, I mean, the old Batman the Animated Series, that's always a great one. The Justice League cartoon was really good. I'm trying to think of like other ones off the top of my head that I really liked. Obviously, like the peak of SpongeBob before it like went downhill. That obviously is like top tier. Can't think of a lot of other ones that I like loved off the top of my head. Trying to think.
Yeah, those you mentioned, obviously. Yeah, SpongeBob for sure. Sort of a cartoon, but like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, like those.
Oh yeah,
very on brand.
Yeah,
I know.
I didn't consider them cartoons. Yeah, because they're anime, but they like walk the line. I don't know.
Yeah.
Richard said, "Hey Arnold," that was always a good one.
Yeah.
I liked Rocket Power a lot. The like OC skateboarder cartoon, and then Danny Phantom was one of my favorites as well.
Danny Phantom's a good one.
Jimmy Neutron was always a good time as
well.
Oh
yeah. Okay.
Courage the Cowardly Dog. I was never super into that show.
Oh, I was into it because it was weird. Courage the Cowardly Dog was cool.
Were you an Ed and Eddie guy?
Oh yeah, Ed and Eddie was good. I didn't know that show was like a Canadian thing until like a couple of years ago, until someone pointed it out to me. I just thought it was an American thing for a long time.
Justin Timberlake says Dexter's Lab, so shout out to Justin.
Wow, we got Justin Timberlake in here. Fire in a super chat for Zach.
I will sing any of your songs if you fire in a super chat. Like
one more super chat, and yeah, we'll do Justin Timberlake.
That's how we end the show.
Tyler. Dragon Tales. Oh my god, I forgot about Dragon Tales. That was an oldie.
Oh, Recess was super cool as well.
Oh, Recess was fun.
Yeah, we really grew up in the golden era of cartoons. Kids today will never know.
They won't. I don't even know like what cartoons are on today.
Are cartoons still a thing?
Like they are, but like I don't know in what forms, because then I'll like find like one of my younger cousins who's like watching.
I said Drake and Josh.
Drake and Josh was a great cartoon. One of my favorite.
It was a great show. It
one of
was
my
a great
favorite
show.
animes of all time.
Samurai Jack.
Samurai Jack
Ooh.
was awesome. Yeah, good call.
I never watched the sequel one that they did a couple years ago though. I heard mixed things though, but I don't know.
I just watched the end,
Oh, okay.
which is like, I don't know. You guess you can watch it.
Uh-oh, we got to sing it, Tyler.
Cry me a river. I gotta find the stupid. Hold on. Cry me a river lyrics.
Oh my gosh.
Cry me a river. Cry me a river. I don't know the lyrics to that one as much. We hit triple digits. I will freaking NSYNC this shit though.
Oh my god, we're gonna go down to like 8 viewers.
I'm dying right now. He's clapping for you, so good job, I guess.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, all right. All right, I gotta go because Utah football is about to kick off in 30 minutes or so. Richard, and now the season has officially gone off the rails.
We haven't gotten off the rails.
Yeah.
Oh man! If anyone ever wonders why we do this show when the Chargers are having a rough time, it shows like today that really like it's therapeutic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I'm glad I could give you guys some therapy. Whatever.
All right. So yeah, we'll be going live tomorrow for our recap after the afternoon games in between Sunday Night Football. Obviously, hope you guys tune in for that one. And appreciate all the support today for Zach Whitaker and his family going through a tough time. We'll be sure to hit those funds over to the GoFundMe, which again is linked in the chat here if you feel obliged to donate there. So that's going to do it for us today, guys. As always, bolt up.